if you can play a song and you get claps and cheers purely on the strength of the noise you've made before the story has gone into it, then you're on a winner, aren't you? You know, once that song has a story, once it's got proper words, it can only get better.
Once the song has a story, and it's always been the case throughout all the All Sweden albums, you know, it's all kind of story based. Once that story is understood and the lyrics start becoming something real, then that actually points the direction of the music.
You just finished what all I can say is an amazing set at ProgFrog at the Nieuwerkerk on the IJssel in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
How are you feeling now?
I absolutely loved it. I'm very tired now, but I loved it, and I just wished we'd had another song actually.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. It's great. It's a great venue. You know, we've been here before, and it's typical of a lot of the venues that we play in around Holland and Germany. It's just like a big family thing, you know. It's you always feel welcomed, and they're really appreciative. So we always enjoy coming over.
Yeah, and the crew, it's very noticeable.
And the
crew are brilliant here, and that's also been true of Dasrund in Germany, where we played last night, and Arlon in Belgium on Friday night. Everywhere we've been this time, the crew have been wonderful, so hospitable. We've been fed, we've been watered, which doesn't happen in the UK.
No,
you know, we go to the UK and we have to go to the shop to buy a sandwich, and we have to go to the bar to buy our own beer, and they treat you like you're doing them they're doing you a favour by letting you play.
Yeah,
that's quite different than from.
It's very different, yeah. And I think the festival that Huw's involved in, you know, the Summer's End organiser, is to me is very similar to that kind of European style of, like a community thing, you know, and the catering, and you know, everybody knows each other. It's just great, you know, and you come to these gigs, and, you know, maybe once a year or once every couple of years, and you know all the people, and they know you, and then you pick up a few new fans along the way as well. So it's always good, you know, and it's always exciting, and they're always appreciative. Every time we play, they always enjoy what we do, which if they enjoy it, we enjoy it. We play better, they enjoy us more. So it's kind of a unspoken agreement, really.
I've been asked by a couple of other UK prog bands, why do you go to the expense of going to Europe? So we did Belgium, then we did Germany, and then we've driven 5 hours this morning to get to ProgFrog. And that's a lot of diesel and a lot of time. And, you know, there's no money in this. But why do we do it? We do it because we played in Belgium, we played in Germany, we played in Holland to wonderful audiences in great venues, which we can't do in the UK.
I gotta say, I'm kind of stunned. I thought, you know, in the UK it was also. I mean, there are so many bands there.
Yeah.
So no, it's a very, very poor scene in the UK. We've played gigs with other excellent prog bands and had 30 people in the audience. In fact, sometimes we've been lucky to get 30 people in the audience, and the venues treat us like they're doing us a favour. Usually, well, quite often we've actually had to hire the venues to play. So.
And, you know, I guess it's the, I don't know whether it's a British thing, I don't know, but tribute bands, you know, there's lots of tribute bands, you know, covers bands, you know, but tribute bands playing in the kind of venues that we play in, we would get 30 people in, they would get 200 people in, because they're a ELO tribute or a Queen tribute or Black Sabbath or whatever, you know. Yeah. So it's all the kind of tends to be the older bands that people want to see, you know. Which is a shame, really, because the kind of stuff that we play kind of is a nod towards all that stuff anyway. We
should appeal to the same fans.
Yeah, we love all of those kinds of, the prog scene and Genesis and all that, the early stuff. That's what we kind of grew up on. And, the kind of music we play is kind of influenced by that. And I think, but the problem is if you're not a big name band or a tribute to a big name band, you're kind of, nobody's really interested. It's slightly underground, I'd say.
Yeah.
It's a bit of an underground
and
scene.
you have to do it for love.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not kids. We've been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
And we do it for love because there is no money in it. There is no future in it. But at our age, we're not going to get signed by a big record company.
No.
So the only way to do it is for love. I feel very sorry for the youngsters who do start prog bands because maybe there's no way forward for them either, except I know a few who I would call prog bands who simply don't use the word prog and are doing very well indeed. But they kind of slotted into the post-rock or metal scene or prog metal, whatever, Put a 7th string on your guitar, make a genty noise sometimes, and
6 is enough for me. I just about get by on 6.
Speaking of youngsters,
Yeah.
I did saw a younger face
Really?
on stage.
Oh, yeah.
The drummer.
Yeah. Guy Monk, our drummer, incredibly talented player. Guy's been with us for about 18 months. Very, very talented player. He is actually a lecturer in a music college. He teaches drums at degree level. Why he has chosen to join Ulster, sometimes I wonder, but he fits in so well. We tease him about being young. He teases us about him being our carer. And it's actually worked really well. You would think it shouldn't be a fit, but I wouldn't swap him for the world. He's fabulous.
Yeah. I gotta say, well, when I watched him play, I mean, he was hidden behind this plexiglass screen.
Yeah.
I think that's because of the space on stage was a bit small, and then
I wouldn't choose to have the plexiglass screen, but I understand the sound engineer's rationale for it. It works because it's a small square venue. The vocal mics pick up too much of the drums.
Yeah.
So I understand, and it actually makes the stage sound really good for the musicians, but it is a little disconcerting to have a see-through wall behind you.
Yeah, and a couple of times I forgot it was there. I kind of inadvertently bumped into it, trying to get across the other side of the stage.
I also, in the non-vocal bits, especially in the quieter songs, I sit on the drum riser. So I was terrified that I was going to forget there was a screen there, and I was going to try and back into it.
And the drummer gets the Spinal Tap incident. The drummer gets squashed by a
falling
plexi screen.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, that didn't happen.
No, fortunately.
Now, you already mentioned you did a couple of other shows already. What made you guys do this mini tour?
It was
That's a good question.
Partially a bonding exercise. Because like I say, Guy's been with us for 18 months. We've played a few UK shows. We're writing material. We played 2 new songs tonight, one of which we played a few times now, and the other one we hadn't played before. And we found years ago, because we were an old-fashioned band who didn't go in the studio and write and record, we write a song in rehearsals and then we take it out on the road and see if it works. and then we chop it and change it around, and we make the bits that didn't work, we change and whatever. So we've been playing a few shows with Guy to go through that process with the new material, and we talk quite a lot about, do you remember when we went to Northern Prog Festival? Do you remember when we did Lorelei? And I thought it'd be really cool for Guy to like I say, a bit of a bonding thing, come out with us like that. He was very keen. I also heard that ProgFrog was finishing, so I messaged Marcel and I said, is there any chance he could accommodate us? And he said when, and I said, well, kind of needs to be November 2024. And he said, yeah. He said, yeah. And he didn't tell me at that point that it would be the last but one show. So we booked that in. Once that was in, I then phoned a chap called Oliver Wenzler, who is the owner of Progressive Promotions Records in Germany. And I said, hey, Ollie, we've got a show in Holland on Sunday. Can you help us on Saturday night? So he said, yeah. He actually made it a celebration of Progressive Promotion Records' 15th birthday.
Oh, nice.
So that was really nice. We played with two artists who are on Progressive Promotions, which is Vleis, who are a new band, and Light Damage from Luxembourg. Vleis are from Germany. But I'd already contacted Light Damage, and I'm friendly with Fred, the bass player. I say, hey Fred, we're coming over, we're playing in Germany, and then we're playing in Holland. Do you want to do something on Friday night? So, where can we play in Luxembourg? And he said, there's nowhere. He said, I know somewhere in Belgium. So he organised the gig in Belgium. So on Friday night, it was Light Damage's gig. So Vleis went on first, because we thought we might as well do the two shows with all three. Vleis went on first, then us, then Light Damage. They were promoting their new album. And then last night, Light Damage went on first, then Vleis, and we headlined. And if I could have, I would have brought them here. But unfortunately, they can't really accommodate support bands here.
You mentioned the new songs.
Yeah.
And the one that you call 7 Up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is this is really the first time you played it?
Maybe the second time. I think we played it in a. I don't think we played it in a
bit of different format.
Serious.
Yeah, it was almost a joke. It was at the end of the gig at the 1865.
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, this is the first time it's been played in this format by the whole band. Where we actually tried to make it sound like a proper song. Like last time, we just sort of jammed through it really.
And there was another song we'd actually rehearsed. Well, probably two that we kind of rehearsed for the gigs, but we kind of need to spend a bit more time on them just to refine them. And we didn't want to put them out there. We're very much of the, have 10 good solid songs and. Maybe some of the older songs, and to maybe put 8 old songs and 2 new ones which we haven't actually fine-tuned. So we wanted to keep a strong set, but but we also wanted to put at least 2 new songs in, so that's kind of what we did.
Yeah, we have
two of the stronger.
We have been guilty in the past of going on stage with songs that weren't ready to be played.
Yeah, I mean, we've done that.
We've made asses of ourselves.
We've done that on quite a few of the albums. But you kind of get the songs benefit from it anyway. And, we've got old recordings of things we did, and like things leading up to Kind of You to Ask that we played before we recorded it, and you kind of listen back to the live recordings, you think, you can see where we were kind of going with it, but it kind of took a completely different turn. But so we took, we're always taking a bit of a risk playing songs that we don't fully, have them fully fleshed out. But what then tends to happen once it is fleshed out and once it's recorded, that's the definitive version of it, so we stick to that. But it's always in progress.
It's not just us. My favourite Marillion song is Season's End, and there's a version of that song with Fish singing, not Steve Hogarth, and it's called Beaujolais Day, and it's exactly the same music and it's dreadful. It hasn't gelled. You can hear that it hasn't gelled.
Yeah.
So it's not just us who go through this process, and I think it's important. I think one of the faults with young bands is that they go into the studio and they write an album in the studio and they record their album and then they take it out on the road without having the slightest idea how it's going to go across to the public.
Yeah.
And I've seen bands play to an audience who were genuinely bored because the band just hadn't thought through, how will this deliver? How is the story going to be told? How will it play out? So yeah, I sometimes old school is good.
Yeah, we sound checked a song in Germany yesterday, which we intended to put in the set, a new song, and we just thought it didn't kind of fit in with the set. It hadn't really been. There's a few loose ends we want to tie up before we play it in front of people, and we could have played it in front of people, and we would have been like, oh God, all a bit tentative and a bit nervy and a bit edgy. So it's a bit of a fine line sometimes. You want to put it out there, but you don't want to put something that's not really finished out there as well.
Interestingly, 7 Up doesn't have proper lyrics yet, which is quite often the way when we start a song. But the songs finish, and when we finish them, quite often the lyrics become quite an important part of them. If you can play a song and you get claps and cheers purely on the strength of the noise you've made before the story has gone into it, then you're on a winner, aren't you? You once that song has a story, once it's got proper words, it can only get better. If you see what I mean.
Yeah,
that sounds very arrogant, but I'm sure you understand what I mean.
I understand.
Once the song has a story, and it's always been the case throughout all the All Sweden albums, it's all kind of story based. Once that story is understood, and the lyrics start becoming something real, then that actually points the direction of the music to a certain degree. If it's a dark story, or if it's meant to be uplifting, then how we perform and how we record it will be reflected. So the songs we played tonight, the new songs, we play them this way. Particularly if we use 7 Up as an example, we played it in that kind of style. But depending on what Huw was singing about, we might think, we need to drop that down a bit, or that needs to be a bit darker, or we need to have a breakdown there. I need to say something in this bit. So it kind of, the lyrics lead the music. So it's kind of the music leading the lyrics initially, then the lyrics.
Very, very much so.
And then it becomes the music and the lyrical content are kind of gel together.
Yeah, and the music will always inform about whether it's a happy song or a sad song. You can't sing a jolly song if it's in a minor key and it's a slow ballad. You're not going to sing a happy lyric about your puppy. But if there is enough in the music to give you a mood, whatever that mood might be, that will help inform the lyrics, and that will help the story develop.
Yeah. That's kind of how it works.
Yeah.
For us, for All Sweden. Other bands are very different. And I know Rich, who was the vocalist with All Sweden after I left and before I joined. He had a book full of lyrics. That isn't my way. It's very rare for me to go to Simon or Ian and say, I've got these lyrics. So we do have a new song on the album, which started life as a poem, and I gave it to Simon and said, can you maybe imagine some music that would go with this theme, and he did, and it's beautiful, but it's very rare. Normally, it's completely the other way around. Yeah. Simon will give me a clip of music, and based on how it sounds in my head, I'm going to think, that's drama, that's sad, that's happy, that's funny, you know, and not that we do any funny songs.
Oh, we have done.
Yeah. And that's how it goes.
What was the point that you two got back together as in Also Eden?
Got back together?
Well,
it was in 2019, and it was a straightforward case of we'd gone our separate ways. Also Eden were a functioning band, although at that point you hadn't played together for a few years.
No.
I left the band Christmas 2009. Rich joined the band about 4 months later? 5 months later?
Yeah, it was.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So that's fine. They were doing their thing. I was doing my thing. And then as 2019 came around, Simon and I were talking, and it was like, do you realise it's 10 years since we released It's Kind of You to Ask? And we decided at that point that it would be nice to play a one-off gig to celebrate that album. And Ian had already left All Sweden at that point. So I phoned Ian and said, look, if we do this, would you be interested in doing it? And he said yes. And I phoned Steve Dunn, who was our old bass player from the It's Kind of You to Ask era. And I said, would you be interested in doing this? And he said, definitely. And Dave Orloffs, who was our drummer, also was very keen to do it. So it would have been the same lineup that made the album. And Simon approached Rich and asked him how he would feel about that, and he was fine with it. So that was the plan, to do a one-off gig in 2019, and then COVID came, and that went by the way. And then probably 2021?
Something like that, yeah.
The conversation started again, by which time Rich was out of the band. The band was more or less defunct. We started talking about it again. At that point, Steve had moved to the other end of the country, he'd moved to Essex, and really wasn't very interested in getting back into music. So Graham had been the last bass player of All Sweden, so we just asked him, would he like to carry on? And I think in those days we were still thinking in terms of one-off gigs, weren't we?
Yeah, it was never meant to be anything more than that.
Yeah, so there was...
You know, we'd all done separate projects. You know, I kind of stepped away from All Sweden for a little bit, just to get a bit of breathing space, I think. And I played in a band called Ghost Community with Matt Cohen and a couple of the other guys for a couple of years as well. So yeah, it kind of, I think we just kind of put it to bed for a little while, and then revisited it, I guess.
Yeah, so when we did do the one-off gig,
Summer's End, wasn't it? Was it Winter's End?
No, it was the 1865.
Of course it was.
In Southampton.
Yeah.
Which is, it's a lovely venue, and we had an absolute blast. We just really enjoyed, but it wasn't just enjoying the gig. We had enjoyed the rehearsals. We had enjoyed being in each other's company again. Steve, as I say, Steve Dunn, the bass player, he had decided he was out of it. So Graham was asked, would he like to carry on? So he was still in the band. Lee, the drummer, had already moved on and joined another band. But Dave was very keen. So even though he lived in Holland at that point, he rejoined the band and came over for rehearsals. And we played that one-off gig. And we just thought, well, this is great. Why don't we keep doing it? And all the time we were at the venue, we were talking about new music. We weren't really focusing on the old stuff. We'd learned that. We knew how to play that. We were chatting over dinner or over a drink about, we could do this, we could do that, we could do that. And we just haven't stopped doing that. And then all of a sudden, All Sweden is back with the 2009 lineup, or at least it was. But then Dave, mutual decision, we decided that having a drummer in Holland wasn't particularly helpful when we were trying to write new material, and Dave was finding it quite stressful as well because we were so far away. So we agreed to look for a new drummer in the UK, which is when we recruited Guy, and the rest, as they say, is history.